Bueno, buenos días. Mi nombre es Alejandro.
Hi, I'm Alejandro Silva. I work for the GeneXus development team in the team of web generators. I'm here today to introduce all the work we are doing. During this session in particular, I would like to express two things. First of all, I would like to talk about what web development is today, what are the technologies that we use the most, which are the technologies that awaken more interest. And at the same time, I would like to tell you where we stand in that map with GeneXus. What is it that we have to solve today when we want to make a web application in GeneXus? I'm talking about front end. The whole track that we'll have in the web generation will refer mainly to front end applications. My purpose is for you to leave the talk with two ideas. The first one, a clear picture of what is going on and what we do in GeneXus. And secondly, we have two alternatives to generate webs, and I would like to map each of the possibilities given the different types of development so that you get an idea of how to do a better web development using GeneXus. Let me start. I have organized my presentation around these two ideas. So this is the triggering question. Which is the best way for developing a web application from the viewpoint of front end? There are 100 correct answers to this question. I even asked ChatGPT for an answer, and I got a long list. We had a very interesting conversation, but we don't have time to share it now. It was a good conversation. To sum up, the answer depends on each team that works, but we need to choose technology standing. We need to be clear about the applications we are aiming at, scale, how to maintain the scale, what is required, testing, delivery, etc., etc. But this is not what I'm going to talk about. We must focus on the 2 points that I have marked in green. First, the technology stack regarding, this is worldwide, to develop front-end applications. And secondly, the application type. This is what refers more specifically to GeneXus. Regarding the technology stack, what do we have today for front-end applications if I want to do them by hand? So I made a list that you have on the screen with frameworks, libraries, technologies, the ones that we know best. All of them turn around the same thing. When a user uses a web application, he wants to have a good experience. So how do we interpret a good experience? I will try to summarize this. A good experience is I access a page, it comes quickly, and then I can act on that page, click a button, fill in a form, and get a quick answer. If the design people are here, they will kill me. But in terms of development, this is what developers do. Not only that, but that's a good part of what we do. And the experience that a user has is to be quick. It has to load quickly, act quickly. Things need to respond to the user very quickly. Now, on the other hand, we as developers want something else. When we make web applications, we want the user to have that at the lowest possible cost. By cost, it all boils down to time, but cost in the sense that we want to reduce the time it takes to develop that kind of experience. I'm trying to summarize what these frameworks provide as a solution. So in order to solve that situation, and now I am the developer, I want the user to receive the page quickly so that it works immediately. What do I have to do as a developer to achieve that goal when I program, when I develop the application? I think there are three techniques or three things which complement one another to achieve that. First, I, the developer, want to call the page to the server, and I want the less possible amount of information to travel, because it will travel faster, technically speaking. Second, when that information arrives, I want it to be shown, when I want it to be rendered or drawn as fast as possible. So I want to minimize what arrives so it arrives quickly. And when it arrives and we get the drawing, that is done as fast as possible. And then when I click a button or fill in a form or do something, I want it to be updated as quickly as possible. So what technique do I use there? When the user does something, what we try to do is to modify on the screen all that has to do with what the user touched. I don't want the whole drawing to start again, just what the user was touching, so as not to change an answer to a form. Only if it says OK, I don't want to change that. So these frameworks turn around that. They all try to solve, they all complement one another, and they use these three techniques. Now I will become more technical to give you an overview, so that then I will tell you what we are using in GeneXus to achieve this. Which of you, how many of you ever heard of Angular? Raise your hands. Angular. React? Maybe more people know about React. Maybe all of you. Quick? What about Quick? Who knows Quick? Less people. Solid or Svelte? A lot less. I will show you what's happening, what everybody's talking about in terms of web development. This is a survey that is conducted annually. I got this from State of JS page. This is a survey 2022. About 40,000 developers participate, and they are asked what frameworks they use for the front end, which one they prefer, which one would they use again. They answer, and these are some of the outcomes. This will show you what's happening today, and then I will explain why. The first three are the ones I mentioned. Svelte. Not many people know Svelte. It's not massively known in the front-end environment. Quick and Solid are the other two. So If you look at React is at the bottom and Angular is at the bottom. So as to focus, what am I showing you? This is a graph showing interest. What is the interest of these 40,000 front-end developers? What is it that they are interested in or like the most? These three solutions: Svelte, Quick, and Solid. Now, what is it that they know most? All of them know Angular, React, and all the rest. They all know them: Solid, Quick, and so on. What do they use? They use React and Angular. The list of React by far, then Angular in the second place. Now, why does this happen? This is obvious. Developers like new things somehow, because both Quick and Solid and Svelte are very good. They have very good solutions to solve the three cases I mentioned today. Svelte, in particular, is very capable of doing rendering. It's faster than all the rest. It's faster than Angular and React. And it needs to bring less codes into the server. Quick draws on the screen and only brings precisely what is needed for rendering that screen. And if you click a button on the screen, the code that you need to run to execute comes at that precise moment. It's very granular and optimized. So this is how it brings codes from the server. So you can cache in intermediate points. The code itself can be cached, and the experience is very quick. And Solid, its breakthrough is the one that started with a characteristic. In order to update, when you click a button, all that is executed during that action is coded. I try to make it simple, through something that is called a signal, and that signal is propagated in the UI to all that is connected. So it only renders things that are connected and involved with the action I have executed. So basically what they are doing is super optimizing the three characteristics I mentioned. While the older technologies like React works as follows. You all know React. What React does is, just to give you some background, when I modify something, it keeps it in a virtual copy. It's managed internally by React. And then you see a copy, you compare, and it's only updated in the copy that you see. It only updates what you see. And this is very slow. Angular does something very similar. The technology is virtual DOM. Angular also adds another feature. It has a way, a very optimized way to detect what you have modified, and it knows which parts to modify. So they were already doing that. So React and Angular can do that. It's quick, it works well, but the three other new technologies are more efficient. So this leads me to something else. Because in the end, what happens is that selecting the technology stack or the front-end framework that we need to produce an application is not so tied to very specific things. It's not so tied to technology that is super optimized. It's tied to something else, to what you know about. You work with Angular, your team works with Angular or with React. Am I going to use Svelte in this project? And then invest in learning while I develop what I have to do, and then use it who knows when, maybe yes, maybe not.
That's why mostly used and most used is Angular React. But it's interesting to see these new technologies that are good and see how Angular React, and particularly when we talk about Angular, I'm going to go back on that. But just to give you an overview of what's happening, you're going to hear that Svelte is wonderful, it goes very fast, but then we use Angular React. What's going to happen in the future? Well, I have no idea. Perhaps there are more solutions, but perhaps there are some that are going to track Svelte or Solid. But we've got a very good solution in Angular and React, or even Vue. Then we touched upon the technology stack and then see where JavaScript is like right now, and then how is that affecting us. Now, I'd like to talk about the application type and introduce more into the GeneXus world. The classifications of type of applications are very many. You can see whether it's e-commerce, documents, and whether we call it front office or front end. And I would like to show you a classification and then to place our generators in this scheme, in this classification, and see how each one of them can be used better. This classification goes top-down from Web Mobile to Web Tool IDE. It's simpler from, it goes from the simple interaction of users to the most complex. So the ones that gives us less work as developers to what can give you more work as developers. So let me give you 4 categories. The first one is Web Mobile. It's a web app thought out for a phone. It's relatively simple, such as the app of the GeneXus event, or a bit more complex, such as the web app for mobile in Facebook. That's a level of certain complexity. The second one is an app that I called Web Front End. It could be called Web Front Office. It's a category that has several names, but I basically mean applications that are mostly thought out to be used in a big screen, let's say in a desktop screen. They are light or perhaps not that light applications, but from the user's integration, both these two apps are for final users, for customers who, for instance, we use a page in our company for our customers to get connected. That is, the customer isn't an expert, user is super intuitive, and what I mean, it's these two groups and those two types of applications. Then to make it more complex, we call it the web back office app. These are more complex apps because in general terms, the back office is the applications for the company. That's why we call them back office. They are usually meant for users who know how the company operates. They are experts in between inverted commas. They have an interface, which usually is very powerful, where lots of things can be made in just one single screen. So that type of application is a bit more difficult to make, and it's a bit more demanding from the developer and the experience that the user must have. That's the case of GXFlow in GeneXus, which is something that Daniel and Lucas will show you later on, and that's the web back office. Another very high complexity is a web app that it's rather a tool or an IDE. This is for super expert users in a broader field. It's not a specific knowledge, but a more general knowledge. An IDE, which is a development tool, is in this category. So after this introduction, how do we fix in with our web generators in GeneXus in these categories? What I mean is, how can we make this type of apps in GeneXus? So where are we right now in GeneXus Web? We've got two generators. A web generator, it's a development that we've had for quite a long time. It's proprietary. And then we have Angular, which is relatively new. Let me explain a little bit about each one of them and how they fit in technology stack and the modeling standpoint, as well as the capacity to develop this type of applications. In the first place, the web generator. It's a generator that was born, and to explain this, let me do it let me tell you about the motivation of the generator, its evolution, where it is at present, and where we're heading to, so that you can understand why it's useful for these categories and why does it use the stack that it uses. So the this web generator was born from the after this idea that before this idea that after this idea where generators were web pages. A generator was a web page. So together with the entire web development or evolution, the generator evolved. There was no technology. We developed the technology. Our web generator evolved so that we didn't have to, when Ajax appeared, where single appeared to renderize the customer, the web apps, the PW, we've implemented it all. And so from the standpoint of a stack, we implemented the framework that we use for this generator, and it's adapted and optimized for the apps that we had to comply with when we made this generator. Now, what type of application? The modeling that we use follow that evolution. Before web, we had Windows app. I'm not going to go deep into history, and there are very young people here who are not going to understand what I'm talking about. But before that, screens were very complex, interaction were very much guided. So that transition between Windows and web was introduced with the generator. The generator is very good to define complex interactions. And so right now, our web generator is ideal to make back office and complex, large-scale operations. It has characteristics, including modeling and a lot of development from the framework, and that are thought out for this type of applications, because that technology didn't exist before. We developed it, and on the other hand, our customers were asking for this type of operation, or something related to this type of application. So where is the web generator right now? Well, we continued adding all the characteristics that are adequate to develop this type of operation and all the things that we add in GeneXus. For instance, the objects in version 18, and we have in Animus that we have to optimize each one, and we've raised the level of controls of the web generator in order to improve development. Now, what's next? Well, improvements. We're going to continue improving our web generator in that sense. More controls, and we're going to share with the Angular generator what we're doing. Now, what happens with the Angular generator? It was born to do other types of applications, to go from mobile apps to the web, and that was its origin. It's very useful for that type of apps, and we want to raise the level of the framework that we are using, which is on top of a known framework. So to that end, we chose Angular. Now, why have we chosen Angular? Well, we bet particularly on Google because we thought that Google was going to continue in the same way we continue the web development in due time. Google was going to follow up the improvements made in the front end, for instance, and that was the case. For instance, as I said at the beginning, the advantages of Quick, which is to download few codes, and Angular has a standard components that is not so granular and accurate as Quick. But whenever you look at a screen, you only download that screen that you are seeing from the server. And we are experimenting, which is something that we hope we can have soon. There are new directives that simplify and optimize that we are included in the next version of GeneXus for Angular 17. So how does this fit in? How does this Angular generator fit in this map of types of applications? Well, as I said, for mobile apps that are light, it has PWA, and we've worked hard on that. It implements the type of smart devices controls with Autobro and so on. We've also made our best efforts to make it quite integrated with external controls, and it's going to be a good platform to develop mobile apps, web for mobiles. And so the layout, the rendering, works out well with the same concepts as for Angular generators. In the afternoon, we're going to have two presentations showing how these apps were made. Which is a sampler. We have WonderNet, which is a clone of Airbnb with the same interaction, same controls. And it's good because we have mega menus and so on with Angular generator. These are the two talks, Martín Torrado and Martina Preciosi in the afternoon, presenting these very many cases. And the other thing has to do with the back office. The Angular generator hasn't got all the characteristics and all the power of a web generator to express and design back office applications, but we are along the right path and we are converging towards that. In the latest version of the Angular generator, we've added the possibility of having a tabular grid, and it's behaving in the same way as web panels. So what you can do with a web panel, you can do it in the Angular generator. Now, after this session, we're going. Daniel Marino and Lucas, so we will show you how to build applications of back office. And then the other type of app that you probably wouldn't do with GeneXus, which is an IDE. This type of application, well, we've expanded the use of controls and internal, external office so that we can have very complex controls working transparently on a GeneXus panel. If you look at GX Next, which has been announced, and it's a new product, that's done with GeoAngular. After Daniel and Lucas' talk, we have Nico Camera, who's going to show us the history of all that and what's been done. So we're going to continue developing the Angular generator along the same line, interoperability and convergence with the web generator. That's our goal mainly for next year. Why? Well, what is the best way? And we think that the answer to what the best way of developing a web application is, and we think it's GeneXus. Thank you.